I'm Jen Valenga, and this is the Ditch Your Backup Plan podcast. I'm a college theater professor, and I'm on a mission to change perceptions on what it really means to make it in arts and entertainment careers. Today's episode is on ditching complacency and showing up. Showing up for yourself, for others, and for investing in consistent creativity. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you found the DYBP podcast. If you've been listening for a while and you think somebody else might get value from this podcast, won't you please share? I'm not here for you to send money to my Patreon. I don't have one. But I would love for you to share so that you can help change perceptions around careers in arts and entertainment. Thanks for listening. Showing up is 90% of the game for arts and entertainment, and really the game of life. When people talk about the lottery, they say you can't win if you don't play. The same goes for your career. You have to show up for your creative journey every day. It's easy to show up for a job. You have to be there physically present. Well, even if it's on Zoom right now, you have to be there. When you're a freelancer, especially during downtime like now, you rely on yourself to show up mentally, emotionally, and to stay in the game when there's no game being played. I know it's really hard right now. Ultimately, this is a profession filled with curious people who are simply obsessed with creating. Remember, our union is one that believes one day off a week is enough. That kind of commitment requires intentional self-care to keep that pace when you've got 8 shows a week. And it requires a very different but equally important kind of care when you're not in a show, not working in arts and entertainment. Obsessed people show up day in, day out. They don't get complacent. The industry moves too fast, except for now. But it will move fast again. You have to be able to jump in, maybe fail, evaluate, and show up again. I don't know if you caught it, but my first episode, Becca Cody, she was episode 1 in season 1, she was on The Voice this week. Spoilers, so jump ahead if you don't want to know anything about that. She didn't get passed through. They did say she should come back, and she's going back. Can you imagine how that feels? I thought she rocked it, by the way, but she's going back because she's not getting complacent. She's putting herself out there and showing up again and again, no matter what. So we'll see what happens the next time around. And I can promise you, either way it goes, she'll show up again. So complacency is a mindset or a personality trait where one avoids responsibility because they are uncomfortable stepping out of the comfort zone. It can be also seen as smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievements. That's from the Oxford Dictionary. I'll just say complacency is when you don't show up. I don't assume it's arrogance when someone doesn't show up. I posted a poll on the Ditch Your Backup Plan Facebook community group. It's a private group, but you can all join. Just look up Ditch Your Backup Plan groups. I asked the reasons why members of that group usually start to feel complacent. The 2 biggest reasons were depression and feeling overwhelmed. I know for me, I get overwhelmed. I'm taking on too many things and I can't possibly show up for everything. But a lot of you said depression. Of course, depression is a very real obstacle to forward movement. It's a condition and a mental illness for some. If it's keeping you from showing up, I highly recommend that you get help. See a therapist. See if there's some underlying condition where you need further support. Tell your therapist you're feeling complacent and work through it. Here's the thing about psychotherapy, though. In order for it to work, like so many other things, you have to believe it's going to work. So maybe therapy's not for you. I think it is for most actors who are talkers. But if it's not for you, go read about strategies to implement or listen to a podcast or video. I'm recording an interview with Dr. Drama from Instagram this week. She's going to be in a future episode. But she's somebody you can watch and listen to some of those techniques that she has to get you out of your performer's depression. When you look on the internet for articles on complacency, there are many hits for politics, as you could imagine. But there's a lot of information about workplace complacency, like, for instance, in factories and locations where losing focus on the required task can be dangerous and even fatal, which made me think about the danger involved for artists. If a worker in a factory is too depressed to show up fully, they shouldn't show up. The stakes are too high. Last week, Jerry J. Cranford talked about playing the genie in the Aladdin show at Disneyland and the hydraulic lift that shot him into the air and onto the stage. Imagine if he didn't fully show up, if he was complacent about his investment in that part of the show. It would be disastrous. Of course, if you were out of work, it's hard to see the danger in not showing up for yourself. But there is danger. Your creativity will slip away. Your mindset will move into the good enough zone. Everything is good enough. This job is good enough. Why worry about my creativity? And I'm telling you, your future self, the one that is completely fulfilled by a creative life every day, will wish you'd shown up sooner and more often. And showing up does not mean you have to be perfect. The great director and really the theater philosopher, Anne Bogart, says in her book, A Director Prepares 7 Essays on Art and Theater. It's really not just for directors, it's great essays. She says there are 7 major areas that are potential partners or potential obstacles to making art. They are violence, memory, terror, eroticism, stereotype, embarrassment, and resistance. In terms of complacency, I'm most interested in embarrassment and resistance. If you are getting complacent because you perceive that you had some failure and you are embarrassed, just remember that's part of the artistic process. Embrace it. Keep showing up, just like Becca Cody is on The Voice. If you are resisting creativity because you perceived failure or you're embarrassed because you haven't been showing up, dive back in. I know it's so easy to resist when there's nothing going on right now. But you should put yourself out there anyway. You might get embarrassed, but through that process, you'll learn. You'll learn how to be better next time. You'll work that muscle, and next time you have to invest, put yourself out there, you won't resist as much. It's all about adapting. This is probably the hardest season you'll ever have to endure as an artist. And if you're in school still, go to classes, keep investing, show up. We need you to jump in the game when it all comes back again. Show up for yourself and others. Show up for your creativity. I've gotten on TikTok and started to create some content. I'm kind of embarrassed about it, but I'm getting a little bit better. And if this 50-year-old woman can do it, you can definitely get out there. Record, write, create with friends, try something new. A couple strategies. Make a goal. You know about setting goals. Better yet, make a challenge for yourself. Set a deadline and reevaluate what's working or not working. That way you only have to commit for a short period of time and then ask yourself, did this help me? Did this hurt me? But it requires you to invest in a challenge. Find an accountability partner, somebody else you know who needs to be creating, some other creator. Ask them to help you stay accountable. Check in with each other. If you can't create right now, spend an hour a week just thinking strategically. Where do you want to see yourself in the future? What kind of person will you be? Envision what that will look like so that when you are ready to invest again, you know exactly where to start and what that looks like. Encourage others who are showing up. It's so easy to do on social media. Just like, comment, share, and learn. Learn, learn, learn. The more you learn, the more you can adapt to changing situations. I'm wishing you a positive week where you ditch complacency, you show up for others, that you show up to your local polling place if you haven't voted already, and that you show up for your creative endeavors. And most importantly, show up for yourself. You deserve it. I'm sending you so much love and light. I hope this episode gives you some strategies to ditch complacency and show up. Until next week, I'm I'm Jen Valenga with the Ditch Your Backup Plan podcast. Share this episode with someone you think needs it. Write a review on Apple Podcasts or mention the DYBP podcast on social media. That would mean so much to me. Next week, I'll show up for you again. It's Laura Camion. She is a Broadway producer and the co-host of the Spark File podcast. Thanks for listening.